최근 MZ세대들의 사회 진출이 활발해지고 있습니다. 그런데 이들이 사회에 진출하면서 발생하는 사회적 문제와 직장 내 기성세대와 MZ세대 간 세대 차이가 커지면서 기성세대의 MZ세대에 대한 부정적 태도가 부각되고 있다고 하는데요. MZ세대들의 문제점은 과시적 소비, 노인 혐오, 이기주의적 성향, 부족한 끈기 등 다양합니다. 하지만 MZ세대의 이러한 문제점은 비단 한국뿐만의 문제는 아니라고 합니다. 오늘은 MZ세대를 바라보는 해외의 시각은 어떠한지 함께 알아보겠습니다. 영국 태생의 미국 작가이자 비즈니스 리더십에 대한 영감을 주는 연설가인 사이먼 시넥. 사이먼 시넥은 진정한 리더에 대한 철학적인 글을 쓰는 작가였습니다. 그러던 그는 2009년 테드 톡스 첫 강연에서 이야기한 Y의 개념이 대중에게 널리 알려지며 기업 경영과 리더십에 관한 시넥의 독특하고도 혁신적인 시각은 국제적으로 주목받았습니다. 이 강연은 테드 톡스 동영상 중 역대 두 번째로 많이 재생된 영상으로 5천만 회 이상 시청되어 지금도 재생 순위 5위 안을 지키고 있는데요. 이후 항공, 엔터테인먼트, 금융, 패션 업계, 대기업부터 경찰까지 거의 모든 분야의 리더들에게 조언을 전했으며 다양한 정부기관과 미 육군, 해군, 공군, 해병대, 해안경비대 최고 지도자들에게도 생각을 공유하는 영예를 누릴 만큼의 유명 인사가 되었습니다. 그런 그가 어느 한 방송에서 밀레니얼 세대에 대해 인터뷰하였고 이 영상은 업로드된 첫 주에 8천만 뷰 이상을 기록하며 온라인상에서 엄청난 인기를 끌었는데요. 이 영상으로 시넥은 Why 나는 왜 일을 하는가? 스타트 위드 Why를 펴낸 베스트셀러 작가에서 밀레니얼 세대를 이끄는 리더로 이력을 발전시켜 나가고 있습니다. 오늘은 사이먼 시넥이 말한 MZ세대의 문제점을 함께 보시겠습니다.
What's the millennial question? Apparently, millennials as a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately 1984 and after, are tough to manage. And they're accused of being entitled and narcissistic and self-interested, unfocused, lazy. But entitled is the big one. And because they confound leadership so much, what's happening is leaders are asking the millennials, what do you want? And millennials are saying, we want to work in a place with purpose, love that. We want to make an impact, whatever that means. We want free food and beanbags. And so somebody articulates some sort of purpose, there's lots of free food and there's beanbags, and yet for some reason, they're still not happy. And that's because they're missing. There's a missing piece. What I've learned is that I can break it down into four pieces. Right? There are four things, four characteristics. One is parenting. The other one is technology. The third is impatience, and the fourth is environment. The generation that we call the millennials, too many of them grew up subject to, not my words, failed parenting strategies. Where, for example, they were told that they were special all the time. They were told that they could have anything they want in life, just because they want it, right? They were told, some of them got into honors classes, not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained. And some of them got A's, not because they earned them, but because the teachers didn't want to deal with the parents. Some kids got participation medals. You got a medal for coming in last, right? Which the science we know is pretty clear, which is it devalues the medal and the reward for those who actually work hard, and it actually makes the person who comes in last feel embarrassed because they know they didn't deserve it, so it actually makes them feel worse, right? So you take this group of people, and they graduate school, and they get a job, and they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant, they find out they're not special, their moms can't get them a promotion, that you get nothing for coming in last, and by the way, you can't just have it because you want it. Right? And in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered. And so you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. The other problem, to compound it, is we're growing up in a Facebook, Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on things. We're good at showing people that life is amazing even though I'm depressed, right? And so everybody sounds tough. And everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little toughness and most people don't have it figured out. So you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations, right? Through no fault of their own. Through no fault of their own, right? They were dealt a bad hand, right? Now, let's add in technology. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good, right? So, we've all had it where you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a bit lonely, and so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends, hi, 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 because it feels good when you get a response, right? Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower, did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore, right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive. Right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down. But that's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Very frustrating for our parents, very important for us. It allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe, right? It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty much the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks, right? What's happening is because we're allowing unfettered access to these dopamine-producing devices and media, basically it's becoming hardwired, and what we're seeing is as they grow older, too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that their friends, that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on their friends, they have fun with their friends, but they also know that their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook, right? These things balanced. Alcohol is not bad, too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun, too much gambling is dangerous, right? There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. It's the imbalance, right? If you're sitting at dinner with your friends and you're texting somebody who's not there, that's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted, right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse, right? So you have a generation growing up with lower self-esteem that doesn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress.
오늘은 사이먼 시넥이 말한 MZ세대의 문제점 4가지 중 2가지를 먼저 살펴봤는데요. 다음 시간에 나머지 2개에 대한 문제점도 다뤄보겠습니다. 이번 영상은 여기까지입니다. 구독과 좋아요, 알람 설정 부탁드립니다. 앞으로 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.